Speculation, right? Over speculation in factories, also over speculation in railroads. How can there be over speculation in railroads? What does over speculation mean? What have they done to railroads?
Too much money.
They built too many railroads that people don't need. Does that make sense? Have you ever seen parts of a city where they built up stuff and no one wants to go and shop there? Right? They've over speculated. And then also because of contraction. The pandemic of 1873, you actually started to see a little bit of inflation. So the government began contracting the amount of money in circulation. They got fearful that inflation was the reason for the panic, and so the government themselves panicked, and they began to contract. What does contraction mean? What are they taking away?
Gold, the circulation.
Yeah, but how do you take away circulation? What do you take off the market?
Gold.
You take gold off the market, right? And when you take gold off the market, that contracts circulation. And who does that hurt?
Average people.
It hurts people who don't have much, right? It hurts people at the bottom. But again, who makes the laws?
Rich people.
Rich people.
Yeah, who do I sound like, by the way? Yeah, doesn't this kind of sound like Zen? Now, what's the thing about Zen?
He's biased.
He is really biased, so maybe I'm biased. I guess I am biased.
If you were as rich as they were, you wouldn't be saying this right now.
I don't know. I mean, you know who's most pissed about this? Are the single richest people in the world. Bill Gates thinks this is ridiculous. He thinks our system is absurd. He thinks people like him should be taxed out the nose. To be fair, he would never feel it. But, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, in the long run, it would also kind of help him, because if he stimulates other people's wealth, then they would be more likely to go out and buy commodities like computers and stuff.
Maybe, but the prices of those things are going down. That's not why he does it. Yeah.
Is that why he's for it? Because he wouldn't feel it as much as average people?
No, I don't think. He wants taxes to be not high on average people. He wants them to be high on billionaires.
Yeah.
People like him, he pays a lower tax rate than the secretary does. Right? I think he probably thinks it's unfair that his tax rate is lower. He literally pays less in tax, not in dollar taxes, but in terms of percent taxes, I pay way higher than he does. And he would say it's not fair for a teacher from Kentucky to pay a higher tax rate than the richest man in America. Does that sound unreasonable? That's what he would say. Okay. So, at the end of class, we're going to panic. And first block people, you will like it. You will do it. You will like it. We need to make sure Austin comes in here before we panic. Oh, yeah. That's happening.
He's the hardcore.
Yes. Hold on. I'm going to tell him. But you got about 5 minutes left. And we're going to panic. You can bring it when we panic, all right?
That's not like determination.
Yes. Fifth block. You're part of that too. If you're part of the fifth block, you just show first block how to panic. Panicking is so much fun. Alright, let's talk about ways that the government tried to alleviate some of these problems, right? How does the government try to alleviate some of this contraction? Well, one was a law called the Bland-Allison Act. This is on the test sometimes. The Bland-Allison Act increased the production and buying of silver. Remember I talked about an idea called bimetallism? Bimetallism is about putting the dollar on both gold and silver. And if the dollar is attached to both gold and silver, what happens to the value of the dollar? It goes down, and therefore there's more in circulation. There's more in circulation, what happens to inflation? It goes up, right? It's easier to pay stuff back. So, the Bland-Allison Act was to actually mine between $2 and $4 million per month of silver. In the end, this doesn't really change. This doesn't really change the amount of inflation. This is called soft money. There's hard money, right? Like gold is hard currency, and money in circulation, dollar bills, is called soft money. These were soft money advocates. And then what you start getting, you actually start getting people organized. And we're talking a lot more about this. And you start getting the Greenback Labor Party. Now, somebody the other day asked if there were third parties that had had a lot of success electorally. The Greenback Labor Party did. It got lots of people elected. We're going to talk a lot more about this in the next couple of days. But I want to let you know the Greenback Labor Party actually comes from these issues of money, right? This money is the issue. Yes?
It's part of the government alleviation.
No, the Bland-Allison Act was part of the government alleviation plan. The Greenback Labor Party was a challenge to the government. The Greenback Labor Party is a party of small farmers and of laborers. Where do we get the term greenback? What's the word for greenback? Dollar bill, right? They want more soft currency and they want help with laborers too. So this is like small farmers coming together with working men in the cities. How great is that? It's like Zen's dream. This is Zen. This is Zen's favorite party. He wants to make out with the Greenback Labor Party. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about corruption, because corruption was the name of the game.
Is this politics in the Gilded Age?
This is politics in the Gilded Age. Do you know who actually named it the Gilded Age? We're talking like 1870s, 1880s. Mark Twain. Have you guys got the Huck Finn yet?
No.
We're getting ready.
Okay, Huck Finn's great. Mark Twain named the Gilded Age. Gilded is sort of like a term for goldened over or really nice. He was making fun of it. But this was the opposite. He was making fun of this age, right? This is the era of unforgettable presidents, also very highly contested elections. But here are some examples of some of the corruption going on, and Grant he claimed he didn't do anything about it. He didn't know this corruption was going on. The first one I want to talk about is not even on here, but it's my favorite. Alright? It's my favorite. It's called the whiskey ring. The whiskey ring is one of my favorite pieces of corruption. The whiskey ring was a group of government leaders, including the Secretary of War. You know what we talked about excise tax? What's an excise tax? We talked about this a couple months ago. It taxes something specifically. In fact, if you remember, Hamilton put the excise tax on whiskey, which created the Whiskey Rebellion right in Pennsylvania. Our government leaders, a couple of them, led by the Secretary of War, literally was taking the money the government was supposed to be getting from the taxes and just putting it in their pocket. They were just taking government taxes and sticking it in their own pockets. That's corruption. It's not even like a fancy corruption. They're just literally stealing from the government. The guy finally resigned, and Grant accepted his resignation, although Grant claimed he never knew anything about the whiskey ring robbing the Americans of excise taxes. The Tweed ring. This is a big one. Tweed. Do you know who Boss Tweed is? You ever heard of Boss Tweed? Boss Tweed ran a political machine called Tammany Hall. We'll see a lot of cartoons about this tomorrow or in the next week. Tammany Hall was a political machine in New York. And I'll remind you how political machines work. Boss Tweed, William Macy Tweed, was the head of this ring. So let's say that I'm Boss Tweed, and you're all immigrants that come in. What happens is I get people elected, and who do they essentially work for? The people are for me. They work for me. And what happens is you get off the boat, I find you a place to live, I find you a job in a factory, and I tell you, you will vote who I tell you to vote for. Does this make sense? So he will own a whole big giant section of town, and everyone there votes for who he tells them to vote for. And it's mostly ethnic, so they're all sort of culturally similar. And he'll get 4 or 5 people to run for alderman or city council or mayor or whatever. And everyone votes. Oftentimes they'll vote 3 or 4 times, right? You grow a beard, you go vote, you shave it off, you go vote again. You vote several times. There were times when there would be more people voting than there were people in the actual district. Really, really dirty voting. And that's how he ran the city. And the thing is, people didn't know how to fight back against it, because many people, like the papers would write about how corrupt and horrible he was. But why did people in these areas who were living in these slums voting for his people, why didn't they know about this? What couldn't they do? They couldn't read. So all these newspapers were writing about how horrible corruption was, but they didn't know. Or they didn't know enough. They knew things were bad until a guy named Thomas Nast started doing what he did. By the way, Thomas Nast was not a particularly fan of Irish people. In fact, you've seen some of his work. You know what Thomas Nast was?
He was the artist who did those advertisements.
He was a cartoonist. And his drawings of what Boss Tweed was doing to New York enlightened the public even more than writing did. In fact, Boss Tweed offered Thomas Nast $150,000 in cash and to live in Paris if he would just stop doing his cartoons. And he didn't. And Boss Tweed got taken down, much in fact because of Thomas Nast and his cartoons. Okay, and now we'll do the last big sort of corrupt thing, and I want to show you something from Netflix. We're going to start watching it. It will be depressing, but it's important for you to see part of this. Okay. I'm going to draw some railroads, so you're lucky.
Those are cookies.
Shut up, Austin. Okay. So here is, actually, you know what I'll do? No.